What's up, everybody? Jordan here. And what if I told you that everything you were ever told was a lie? That all your favorite franchises from 20 plus years ago would inevitably be remade into 2+ hour long trailers? Is it a sequel? Is it a fan film? Join me as we go down the rabbit hole of disappointment and uncertainty today. Because that's right, everyone. We are talking about The Matrix Resurrections, the fourth installment in the Matrix canon film franchise, with such returning stars as Keanu Reeves with Neo, Carrie-Anne Moss as Trinity, and some new faces with Bugs, played by Jessica Henwick, or even new Morpheus, played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. And even some returning faces you might not recognize as Priyanka Chopra, Sati. And let's go over the trailer for this movie, because the plot is easy enough to say in a nutshell, and you'll see it over and over again. Neo is back at it. He's back at the Matrix, and he's back at trying to get out, folks. That's right. He's the Matrix. You can tell the whole movie from this trailer. The Matrix is a thing again. Neo's stuck. And it is cram-packed full of callbacks to the original movies. And I'm honestly going to say, a lot of the film is just like clips of the previous movie. At least 20 or so minutes of this 2-hour movie is just clips of previous films, the original trilogy. And you can tell already, they've shown the black cat. There, you got Neo. He's prescribed to the blue pills. It's interesting too, because this movie has so many callbacks. But then if you watch the trailer and go watch the movie, the trailer plays out the same way the movie does, from start to finish. Like I was saying, about a third of this movie is Neo in the new Matrix. And then he, meets up with Morpheus and the new Trinity, or Bugs. And this is Bugs. He escapes, and then it's all about him trying to find Trinity. And with so much of the movie being dedicated to Neo and the new Matrix, what they're doing is it's so weird and so meta. And most of the movie is just like them fourth wall breaking, talking about the original series and how cool it is. And it's very strange, because they go in the new Matrix and Neo is a game developer, is how they fool him. And instead of like the Matrix having happened, he just made a video game called The Matrix, and it was everything from the movies. So they're just kind of openly talking. It's their way of being able to openly talk about the Matrix. And so much of the movie is them, in the game developing room, and they're just like, oh yeah, what made the Matrix cool? Because, I forget, let's see, they just say Neo, but I think they gave him a new name when he was in the new Matrix. It was Adam, I believe. They're like, oh yeah, Adam, what made the Matrix so cool? They're in their press conference room, just say, what made it cool? It was a mind fuck. That's what made the Matrix cool. Yeah, what made the Matrix, and they just keep talking about it. But then you see this movie, and nothing about it is what made the Matrix cool. This movie is everything but what made Matrix cool. What this movie really made me want to do was just go and watch the original trilogy. And I almost feel like that was the whole point of the movie. Because so much of it was just callbacks. How cool was this scene? And then they'll literally play the scene. And they'll show you the new Mr. Smith. And then they'll show you a clip of the old Smith. Or like this scene here. They just remake scenes, like Neo versus Morpheus. Except the new scenes, they'll do Neo versus Morpheus, or like Neo versus different programs and people, trying to recreate scenes from the first one. But then they're just such worse versions of the scene. Like this scene right here, when he's fighting Morpheus, Morpheus is trying to unlock his new powers, and that's when he gets like the almighty push kind of thing going on. And he uses that a lot throughout the movie. That's his main weapon, really. He just kind of blocks everything that way because he doesn't remember all of his powers from the previous ones, so he just learns this one new power, and then that's all he uses throughout it. They'll do other things, like as you saw with the blue pill. He poured out the bottle of blue pills, and it's like their way of trying to show you, like, oh, see, they have him like so doped up on blue pills, and that's, you know, how to help him not understand he's in the Matrix, because that keeps you where you are. And for how much they talk about what makes the Matrix cool, you would think they would understand. Like, the whole pill thing in the Matrix didn't matter. They tell you in the movie, he's like, what if I didn't take the red pill? And he's like, it was a placebo. The choice is what matters. So they sit here in this conference room having long, drawn-out conversations of what made Matrix cool. It was a mind bend, right? What if we did that? But then they don't. This movie's so weird. It feels like a documentary almost, like a fan film. And it's almost not even a fan film, because a fan would understand that the blue pills isn't really a thing. Or, you know, like the deja vu in the original movies, the black cat means deja vu. In this movie, the black cat, it's like a power-up. If you have a black cat, it unlocks abilities for you. And I don't know if maybe that was a thing that they did on purpose, because in this one, you know, like Neo made a video game, and so much of this movie feels like a video game. Like there's power-ups you can get with the black cats. He's got like the, you know, like I said, the push ability where he can spam that and just kind of push everybody away all he wants. And they're doing all of these things, and nowhere do I see what I loved about the Matrix. You know, they got the robots, okay. But you know what made the Matrix cool? It sure wasn't talking about how cool the Matrix was. The Matrix was cool because it had leather, it had badass kung fu fight scenes where they would just do long camera cuts of action. Right here you can see, this is one of the best scenes in the original Matrix, when Neo truly understands what the Matrix is and he starts seeing it. I even wanted to pull up, because in the trailer they show you Neo versus Morpheus. So that's Morpheus versus Neo in this one. It's like a 30-second thing. Here's Morpheus versus, this is what made the Matrix cool. Look at that. The kung fu, the anime feel, like the wide camera shots. And then most of the cuts in something like this isn't even during the action scenes. All of the cuts will be them reacting to each other. You know, you go over here, look at that. Just long scenes of them kicking each other's butts. This is the Matrix. This is why I love this franchise. This, I mean, just look how many cuts are in this. It's an insane difference. Look at that. It's crazy. So, for a movie where a good chunk of it, like I said, about a third of the movie is just them fourth wall talking about how cool the original movies were. And then, you know, they just rehash everything to where it's like, yeah, there's obviously a new Mr. Smith. So then they recreate the Neo versus Mr. Smith fight scene, except it's way worse than the original. But they try so hard to redo it that they literally break into the exact same place. It's like the same building, the same background. And then Smith is even like, remember this, Mr. He doesn't even call him Mr. Anderson. He's like, remember this, Mr. Thompson? You know, and then so there's about a third of the movie that's just discussing how good the original ones are. And then when they introduce new concepts like this, where Neo's looking in the mirror and he's an old guy, they barely go over that stuff. They just go to him and they're like, yeah, like the true you is Neo, but the you that other people sees is this guy. And it's like, okay, do you care to expand at all on what importance that has with anything? If he's in the Matrix anyways, who cares what other people see him as? And if that's the case, why is Trinity still herself? Or is Trinity a totally random woman for no reason, and we just see the true her? Things like that. The original things in the movie is some of the dumbest stuff too. Like in this one, he's like, wait, so I did all of that for nothing? And they're just like, no, it wasn't for nothing. Look. And then they're just friends. They have like these little Disney style, like the robots are cute now and they are blue instead of red octopuses. And they just ride on them and they're like their little mechanical buddies. So while they're talking about what made the first one cool, they do none of it while adding all of this uncool stuff. And they keep talking about bullet time with the new Matrix. It just becomes this jumbled mess of a movie where at a certain point you just kind of don't really know. Like right there, the whole Keymaker thing. The Keymaker was one guy in the original one, and now everybody just walks up to a door and anybody can open the new doors. Or at one point, I don't want to spoil anything. I'm just trying to talk about stuff that they show in the trailers. So, but that is something like you would think that door thing is kind of cool, but they overdo it. They do it so much and everybody does it to the point that it's not even cool. And I know coolness is a subjective thing and cool is different to everybody. But if you would look at something like the first Matrix and say something like this is cool, then you would definitely look at the new one and think that it's completely lame. Or for example, Morpheus was really cool. The new Morpheus is sometimes it'll be the new actor that they got for him, who's fine. He didn't do a terrible job, but half the time he's just like all these beads. And it's just like another Disney thing. They have like the Disney pet robots. They got like this weird robot beady guy that comes and helps. It felt so childish. And this movie's rated R. It's the most PG. It's the most G-rated R movie. It's the most G-rated feeling R-rated movie I've ever seen. Until the very end, it just gets weirdly violent out of nowhere. It doesn't make much sense. Or Bugs, the other... No, really, there's only the two notable characters. New Morpheus, Bugs. She does okay. I honestly wasn't a huge fan of her character. And they really did just kind of pose her as like the new Trinity. But then there's also Trinity. So there's just kind of two Trinities now, and Neo only loves one of them. But before I babble on too long, I'll just wrap this up. It all leads up to a pretty disappointing climax that I honestly don't know if it was setting up, if there's gonna be more Matrix movies, or if they really just felt like they needed to answer some very minor questions that bad. Really, I truly feel like this movie was just a way to make you go watch the original because it hypes up the original trilogy so much. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to pause this and go watch the first Matrix. It is a far superior movie to this one. Neo doesn't feel cool. The new cast is okay at best. Trinity is pretty badass throughout it, especially once she, starts doing her thing. But do I feel like this movie's worth the money? No. Don't go and spend $12 to $20, maybe even $30, $40 on a ticket to see this. Unless you're a really, really, really die-hard Matrix fan. Even then, I feel like you would just be all the more disappointed. I don't know who the audience for this is. It should have just been some like Netflix documentary. So if you have HBO Max, go ahead and watch it. just because, there's some kind of cool scenes, there's some kind of fun scenes, but overall, I gotta say, not a strong way to end it. I don't know, but thanks for watching, everybody. Later.